Hi, Year 11. This is part 2 of today's lesson. If you haven't already watched part 1, you should probably stop this, go back and start at part 1. So this is part 2 of 3 parts of today's lesson. Okay, right. Let me get my screen back up again. So I'm going to share my screen. Need to press my magic sharing screen button. There we go. Share screen. We'll get that up there, and then we get. Okay, so this is part 2 of the lesson. We looked at how you can measure amplitude and wavelength on waves. Now I want to look at doing some calculations about those waves. So make sure you've got your calculator in front of you there. And the next thing I want to talk about then is this idea that, of course, when we've done these measurements of waves, we've really just been drawing them as flat pictures, not moving like waves realistically do. But of course, waves are moving. So we're going to do some sums about how the waves move. First thing we want to work out about how a wave moves is how many waves go past in 1 second. And that's called the frequency of the wave. So if I look here, I've got one complete wave. Whenever I'm counting the number of waves that go past, I need to count complete waves. So wave goes all the way up to the peak, all the way down to the trough and back where it started again. That's one complete wave. And if one wave goes past in 1 second, then we say that the frequency of that wave is 1 hertz, capital H, little z, when we write the unit for the frequency of that wave. So 1 wave a second, we would say, is 1 hertz. Now, if 2 waves go past in a second, so 2 waves, 1, 2 waves, if they go past our counting spot in 1 second, then we would say that the wave has a frequency of 2 hertz, or 2 waves per second. If 10 waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 waves go past in 1 second, then we say it's got a frequency of 10 hertz. So 10 waves in 1 second is 10 hertz, 10 waves per second. But what if 10 waves go past in 2 seconds? How many waves are there every second? Well, 10 waves in 2 seconds means that every 1 second there are 5 waves going past. So I would say that that wave has a frequency of 5 hertz, 5 waves every second. If there were 100 waves going past in 10 seconds, all right, how many waves go past in 1 second? Well, let's have a look. 100 waves in 10 seconds means there's 10 waves per second. So I would say that that wave has got a frequency of 10 hertz. So really all you're doing to work out the frequency of a wave is divide the number of waves. You'd have to count them. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 waves, divided by the number of seconds to get the number of waves per second. So that's the frequency of a wave. Now, once you've counted the frequency of a wave, how many waves you get coming past every second, the next sum you might have to do is what's called the time period of the wave. Now, the time period is just the time it takes to make one complete wave. So how much time goes by for each complete wave that we make? And the sum we use to work that out is this one. We said the time period, the time it takes for one wave, is 1 divided by the frequency of that wave. So time is 1 divided by the frequency. T is 1 over F. Time is 1 divided by the frequency. So I would do 1 divide by the frequency. So for example, let's look at some of those waves we counted. There's our wave, one wave. In 1 second, it's got a frequency of 1 hertz. So if I want to know the time period of that wave, the time it takes for one complete wave, I do frequency is 1. 1 divided by the frequency, 1 divided by 1, and that gives me a time period of 1 second. What if the frequency was 2 hertz, 2 waves a second? Time period is 1 divided by frequency. 1 divided by 2. That gives you a time period of 0.5 seconds. You can see I'm writing the time period in seconds. What if the frequency was 10 hertz, 10 waves a second? The time period is 1 divided by the frequency. 1 divided by 10 gives me 0.1 seconds. You can do that in your calculator. What if the frequency was 5 hertz? 5 waves going past every second. Time period is 1 divided by frequency. 1 divided by 5 gives me 0.2 for my time period. Now, you don't have to remember this time is 1 divided by frequency. That's going to be an equation you're given on the formula sheet. What about our other example? Frequency 10 hertz, 10 waves every second. So my time period is 1 divided by the frequency, 1 divided by 10. 1 divided by 10 gives me 0.1 seconds. So all you're doing is 1 divided by the frequency. So we've learned to do two things there. We've learned to work out the frequency of a wave, which is just the number of waves in 1 second. And then we've learned to do the time period of the wave, the time it takes for one wave. To work out the time period, you do 1 divided by the frequency. So there's a worksheet attached to the lesson which has some questions about frequency and time period. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work through some examples where we do some frequency and time period sums, and then I'm going to stop this video, and at the start of part 3 I'll go through the answers to this worksheet. So don't start part 3 until you've gone through and had a go at the calculations on this worksheet. Make sure you grab your calculator. You can always pause the video now if you want to go and grab your calculator, and you can open the frequency and time period worksheet that's attached to this assignment on Google Classrooms. Right, let's see if I can get my worksheet up here, and I'm going to scroll to the top of it where the example questions are, and I'm going to work through some of these. So I'm going to be copying these onto my sketch pad so we can go through these. Okay, so this is the worksheet that's attached to the lesson. You can see it reminds you how to work out frequency, which is the number of waves in 1 second, and the time period, which is the time taken for one wave. Time is 1 divided by the frequency. So here's an example of the question. 5 waves go past in 1 second. What is the frequency and the time period of the wave? Okay, if I'm going to work out the frequency and the time period, here are the two sums I need to do. First sum, working out the frequency. If I want to work out the frequency, I divide the number of waves by the number of seconds. So the number of waves divide by the number of seconds. So number of waves, where's my highlighted? There it is. So the number of waves divide by the number of seconds. Alrighty, number of waves is 5. Number of seconds is 1. 5 divided by 1 gives me 5 hertz. I need to make sure I write down that hertz unit when I do a frequency sum. Okay, so I've worked out the frequency. That was the first job. What's the time period now? The time period is 1 divided by the frequency. Okay, so 1 divided by the frequency. I've already worked out the frequency. 1 divide by the frequency. My frequency was 5, remember? 1 divided by 5 gives me an answer of 0.2 seconds. So you can see in the first box, I've worked out the frequency, and in the second box, I've worked out the time period. The first box, I divide the number of waves by the number of seconds, and in the second box, I divide the frequency, 1 divided by the frequency. Okay, so let me work through a couple more examples of that, and then I'll let you have a go at doing them yourself. So let me scroll down on my worksheet here and copy it onto my sketch pad. There we go. And we'll try a few of these. Okay, so question 2 in the example. This is on the worksheet that's attached to the lesson again. Okay, so it says 8 waves go past a point in 2 seconds. What is the frequency? And what is the time period of the wave? Okay, Right, let's get down to actually working these out for ourselves here. To work out the frequency, divide the number of waves by the number of seconds. 8 divided by 2 gives me 4 hertz for my frequency. Alrighty. Next box, use the time period is 1 divide by the frequency. All right, so time period is 1 divide by the frequency. There's my frequency number. It can go in there. 1 divide by 4. And I can put that into my calculator. 1 divided by 4 is 0.25 seconds. First box, I worked out the frequency. Second box, I worked out the time period. Let's have a look at another example. Example number 3 here. 120 waves go past in 3 seconds. What is the frequency and time period? Okay, frequency, the number of waves divided by the number of seconds. 120 divided by 3 gives me 40 hertz when I put that in my calculator. For the next box, it's going to be 1 divided by the frequency. So I take my frequency across here. 1 divided by 40. Put that into my calculator. I need to do that on my calculator. I'm going to cheat and use my phone in front of me here. 1 divided by 40 is 0.025. 0.025, and it's got seconds written in there for me. Right, one more example, then I'll leave you to try the rest of the worksheet. I'll scroll down, copy that onto my sketch pad. Here we go. 2,000 waves go past the point in 5 seconds. What's the frequency and time period? Okay, frequency, number of waves divided by number of seconds. Number of waves divided by number of seconds. 2,000 waves divided by 5 seconds gives me 400, and my unit is hertz, capital H, little z. Alrighty, now I'm going to use my time period is 1 divided by the frequency. 1 divided by 400 equals 0.0025, and because this is a time period, it's in seconds. So 0.0025 seconds. So remember, in the first box, the number of waves divided by the number of seconds, and in the second box, it's 1 divided by the frequency you've just worked out. So you've got the rest of this worksheet to have a go at here. Question 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and there's some extension questions you can try as well there. You can obviously type your work into the worksheet there, or if you wanted to do the calculations in your green exercise book, that's fine too. As of now, I am going to stop recording, and we shall have a go at pausing this video here, and we shall let you have a go at trying those. And in part 3 of the video, then we shall come back and you can check how well you've done those. Good luck, and I'll see you in part 3.